Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Mission Employable podcast. My name is Ben Oldak. With me today, Kathy Leggett, our co-host. Kathy, how's it going?
It's going great, Ben.
Back from Hawaii. Last time you were here, you had just gotten back.
Yes.
How have you readjusted, and how many smoothies have you been drinking to try to capture some of that glow?
It's been great. I am back adjusted well since we spoke last time. And actually, it is funny because I did bring coffee from Hawaii.
Oh, God, yes.
And so have been having that every morning, which is fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I know they have some incredible coffee out there. So I'm very jealous.
Yeah.
Well, we've got a great show for you today because Yvette Clausen is here. She is a self-employment counselor at Iowa Workforce Development. As part of our Vocational Rehabilitation department, we'll be talking a bit about her background and honestly her incredible story, and also talk with her about how her background is impacting our agency and how she's helping Iowans. Yvette, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so we were talking a little bit before the show started, and I just want you to I won't talk too much about it, but I want you to just tell us a little bit about your background and your story.
Okay. So I do not have a good background. I committed a very serious crime at age 17, and I initially was in a juvenile facility, and then I had a trial and conviction and was placed in an adult correctional facility at Mitchellville. I was never supposed to get the chance to have release. And when I went into prison, I was told I had a life without parole sentence and that I would spend the rest of my life in the prison system. And eventually I was able to get a second chance because I was a juvenile when I committed my crime. And also more so because of the work that I was able to do while I was incarcerated to demonstrate that I was ready for release and appropriate for society. And I will say that the Iowa Workforce Development programming that I was able to do while incarcerated was a big part of that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And so to just keep going on that, talking about what you did while you were incarcerated, can you tell us a little bit more about that? What type of programming and what opportunities did you have?
So I think the very first program that I was able to complete was a data entry 1 and 2 certificate through DMAC that was offered there at the facility. And I think DMAC has changed the name of that program, but basically it was computer skills. So 10-key typing, Excel, Word, PowerPoint, and, really before the internet had even taken off.
Yeah, wow.
So was able to do that and just get some foundational skills. And that helped me to get a job with Iowa Prison Industries, where offenders are able to do real world type of work and gain work skills. And of course, having gone into the prison system at age 17, 18, I had not had real world employment. So that was big. And then moving on from there, I was able to do an AA degree through Kirkwood. And there are a lot of different grant programs that make it possible for individuals who are incarcerated to participate in those programs, and really a lot of studies showing that people who are able to get an education while they're incarcerated do a lot better on release and stay out, et cetera. Mm-hmm. Eventually, I was able to complete bachelor's degree through Iowa State University, and then as it started to look like I might get a chance for release, I was placed in all the Iowa Workforce Development programming. So I was able to do resume writing workshop. I was able to do a class called Poets, providing opportunities for ex-offenders to succeed. I think the name of that has changed now, but the principles are the same. Really just teaching people with that criminal history how you show up at work, how you apply for jobs, interview for jobs, complete the requirements of a job once you get hired. Really, somebody like me who went in very young doesn't know how to fill out a W-9 form or any of that. And all of those skills were taught. I was able to take the NCRC exam and do some other higher level like employment force field that was provided by a volunteer, talk with people from Dress for Success about what do you wear when you go to work, really the whole gamut. Also, when I got very close to release, an offender workforce development specialist got me an open door for an interview at a national fast food franchise in the town that I was going to go to work release in. And that was my first job.
Yeah.
Wow.
How motivating was it, like in those stages of like, you know, you might have a chance of getting released. Now it looks like you're going to get released and now you're close to it, and how that drove you to continue to do all of this work?
I think, you know, probably when I first started, I was just like, okay, I'm sitting here in prison. There are 24 hours in a day, and I just have to do something to keep busy so that I maintain my humanness, maintain my sanity, and have something to look forward to each day. And then over time, that kind of turned into I was able to mentor and tutor other people who were going through those classes and programming. And then eventually it turned into this is real, so I need to pay attention to this stuff because I'm going to have to do this stuff in the real world, and I've never done it before.
Wow.
So,
yeah.
I think that was just such a great showcase of, number one, all of the the things that are available to help individuals in the situation similar to yours. But I also just want to really commend you and say, but you're the one who took advantage of them. And is that, as you kind of explained, I mean, they're there, which is what we want, but you did it. So, wow. I just think it's fantastic. And thank you again for being here to share it with us.
Thank you. I really appreciate that feedback. It's interesting because when I did go before the parole board, one of the things they commented on was that when there was no hope for my release, that I was taking steps to improve myself and move forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing.
And now, man, after you were released, you ended up getting a job with IVRS and started working on your MBA, and you got your master's, and then you were promoted to an IVRS counselor. How did that feel to come that far from where you were to now where you're in this role helping other people?
So it's just really interesting because I actually came to IVRS from another state government agency. I came from higher education, and I was in a support role there. And then I saw the position at IVRS, and I did not know what IVRS really was. I had heard about it, but I didn't have any experience with the agency. Most people coming out of prison go to the workforce development side. And so I applied for the job, and the job was very similar to what I did in prison immediately prior to release to get ready for release. So I was working off grounds, and I did like all the oil changes on the gators and et cetera that they used for lawn care and things like that. So I applied for vehicle fleet administrator position with vocational rehabilitation, and I got the position. I had a super supportive boss. Ironically, he had done IT in the prison system. So he was very familiar with the prison system and didn't have that reluctance to give me a chance because I think he didn't have that fear of what would happen, and he knew that kind of about the programming that people did while they were in prison. And then eventually I just kept on taking more duties within the agency, and they decided that really they had moved me into some duties that that warranted being promoted to a purchasing agent position. So then got that opportunity, and I was just really on the edge of a lot of the really positive things that the agency does, and got to get a little bit of a taste of it. And I kind of thought, I'd really like to do more of that. I'd really like to make more of a direct impact. So I went back and got an MBA, and that opened the door for me to apply for a rehabilitation counselor position, specifically for the self-employment program, because that MBA really ties into the small business. And I got the position, and the business side, I really get. I had that great training through a college in Iowa for a small business. The counseling side, I feel like I'm just really starting to learn, but The way that we work the program is a primary counselor who's a rehabilitation counselor participates along with me. So they job candidates really get both sides of that, because I don't feel like I would be qualified at this point to provide the full spectrum of the services.
Yeah.
I just focus on the self-employment side. I will say it's really a great feeling to see where people are when they start and they just have an idea or they have some goals, and we really flesh that out and come up with a plan that is feasible and that is going to be sustainable, and that's going to help them meet their employment goals as well as their financial needs.
Yes. So let's take a little step here, where, because I have like two things that, so I want you to take a minute to share with folks specifically what the self-employment role is, because that is very unique and a great opportunity. And you kind of talked about it, but talk a little bit so everybody knows what that is. And that's a program that's available. And then talk about your next steps, because I think exactly what you've just shared is leading into what you are now working on. And again, more learning, more improvement, more just what can I do to help others? So two tangents there, but take the first one. Talk a little bit about the self-employment.
So the Iowa Self-Employment Program through Iowa Workforce Development, Vocational Rehabilitation Services is a program that assists individuals with either establishing or expanding a business. And to qualify for the program, individuals need to have a qualifying disability, qualify for vocational rehabilitation services, and then they would let their primary counselor know that their employment goal is self-employment. And then at that point, depending on which side of the state they're on, they would either work with myself or my counterpart who covers the eastern half of the state. I cover the western half of the state. So what that looks like is really very individualized. I work with everyone from people who are doing cottage industry food sales to individuals who have really kind of high-level businesses like construction trade businesses that are doing a significant amount of business throughout the year, kind of everything in between, people who have independent contractors within professional careers, people who have higher educational degrees. We have the microenterprise program, which is meant to be for businesses that are at a smaller scale, fewer requirements, and then lower level of support needed, all the way up to the full self-employment program, individuals who have a more expansive business plan and the resources needed to fulfill that plan are greater.
Nice.
So,
and I just, the entrepreneurial sector, or whatever you would, it just offers so many opportunities, I think, for all kinds of individuals. So I love that we have that support.
It does, especially for individuals with disabilities who may not fit really well in the 9-to-5 work world, people who maybe have medical appointments that would interfere, or people that maybe have intermittent episodes where they're not able to work. They can really control their work environment and their work schedule a little bit better being self-employed. It's really taken off nationwide. And then also for individuals who have more significant disabilities and maybe need additional support, we can tap into some of those support services that they receive, like maybe job coaching or even respite to assist with implementing those businesses.
Yeah. And now for kind of what Kathy was alluding to a little bit before, you're still continuing to grow. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I'm super excited. This is my first semester in rehabilitation counseling program. And so kind of watching the counselors around me who are rehabilitation counselors and watching what they do that I am not qualified to do at this point, and learning from them about things that they know and techniques that they have in working with individuals. I was really motivated to pursue that degree so that I can offer that full spectrum of services, and maybe at some point in the future, people who are working with me would just work with me and not need that primary counselor to work along with us as well.
Yeah. And is that the second master's degree?
It is. Yep.
Yeah. So another master's degree. Yeah. Just like when are you going for the PhD? Like
my husband says I'm never going to quit. But he's been very gracious about it.
That's so cool.
It is.
And it just kind of leads into my next kind of question, which is, why is it important for us as, a state, an agency, a society to offer these kinds of support services to people who are justice involved?
So I'm not an expert. I'm not trained to know all the statistics, but I do know that I hear over and over again that people who are able to get a college degree while they're incarcerated and are released are more successful upon release, are less likely to return to crime, return to prison. I know for myself, getting a degree while I was in prison and getting employment skills while I was in prison enabled me to get out and pretty quickly pay off the restitution that I owed to the state. I am not a drain on society. Society is not having to pay for my food or my housing or my clothing or for people to watch me. I am paying my own way. I am providing support to my family. I am volunteering in my community. I am assisting other people in gaining meaningful employment and also increasing their ability to be self-sustaining as well. And I'm just one example. I work with people who are justice involved or have been justice involved and see their successes as well. And it's really inspiring to see what people can do when they're given the chance. And it's also inspiring to see the example that people who were justice involved can provide to other justice involved people, whether they're still inside or whether they're outside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is there anything you mentioned, and I think it was maybe one of your first employment opportunities where you had a boss who, felt at least familiar and comfortable with the programs that maybe you had attended. And so that made for a good work environment for you, and he was comfortable. Is there any suggestions or thoughts that you would offer to other employers in order to consider, opening up to the pool of employees they might be able to access?
I would say that most justice-involved people, when they are released, are going to have higher stakes for doing what they're supposed to be doing in employment. Mm-hmm. They're answering to somebody. They have to maintain employment. They have to maintain positive status with employment. People are checking on them. And so most people who are released and are wanting to stay out are going to do a very good job for their employers, have consistent attendance. They have learned to follow rules while they're incarcerated and learn the importance of following the rules and the benefits of doing the right thing and really want to be successful.
That's great information.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Now, and our support staff at Iowa Works, as well as some of our core partners, they're always working to get better, especially with this kind of thing. In February, they went through a reentry simulation. Could you tell us a little bit about that and kind of what that entailed?
So I participated in that, and I did not know that it was coming. I knew that I was going to a training, but I didn't know it was going to include the reentry simulation. So that was kind of an emotional experience for me because that reentry simulation was really very real. People were simulating coming out of prison and having very limited resources and having a lot of requirements and also not really having a clear map of what they needed to do first, second, third. And so my first round in the simulation, I went somewhere to try to get something accomplished, and they told me, nope, you have to go somewhere else first. And you get in a situation where you start running out of time to accomplish all of those tasks. And then I think by the third round of the simulation, I had gotten everything accomplished that I was supposed to get accomplished, which included things like, they say you have to go see your parole officer. You have to go get a UA before you do that. If you have a job, you have to go to the job first. If you you have to get bus tokens before you can go to anything because you have to have a bus token for every stop. And
Sure.
so there was a long list. By the third round, I had made it everywhere that I was supposed to make it. And then some random person came up to me and said, you have a speeding ticket. You have to go to the courthouse and pay a certain number of dollars. And that was so emotional because I think that when you get out of prison, even when you're doing the right thing, you always kind of have this fear hanging over your head that just something totally out of your control is going to happen, and that no matter what you've done positive, that somebody is just going to come and snatch it from you and tell you, nope, you're going back. You're leaving your family, you're taking nothing with you, and you're just going back. So emotionally, that's kind of always a fear. And I expressed that at the end of that training, and one of the IWD staff who was in there stood up after that and said that made them think about how there used to be kind of a roadmap for release that listed each task that individuals needed to do, and she had wondered about re-implementing that so that people really had a strong guideline and pathway for everything that had to happen.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about that, obviously how emotional it must have been for you, but also how important is it that other people that maybe haven't been through that system, how important is it for them to understand, the hurdles that you have to go through and kind of the stakes of it all?
Yeah, and it may look like, I have a great life now. I have a great job, really a career. I have a family, I have a home, I have a supportive community. But still, I still have fears about, what could happen if I'm somewhere and somebody's doing something wrong. Are they going to think that it's me? Those kind of things are very real for people who've been justice involved.
Wow.
Yeah.
So major. I think that a couple of things. Number one, thank you again for sharing, because it's even emotional for me to sit and listen, because just to and even just empathize with what those emotions and those experiences that you had. So thank you for sharing those. I also want to say I think that our organization is very blessed to have you working with us as part of Oak Rehab. You obviously, it's clear to me, you bring so much to the people you work with, and so I think we are very fortunate. You are and you're out there helping people. So I want to encourage people to reach out to the program that you're with. So we've just got this full full box of great stuff with you here, Yvette, for helping people, for helping us learn more about your experience, and for really serving as a role model, I think, for people. So thank you.
I appreciate that. I will say that, really it has been a journey that I have been blessed with so many great people to lead me along the way, so many great people to collaborate and coordinate with. In my role now, I am able to collaborate and coordinate with a lot of community organizations that really support what I do. And I think probably my best skill is just to tell people, hey, I'm not the expert in this, but this person over here is the expert in this, and I can provide a direct referral to this person, and we can sit at the table together and work through the steps that you need to take to be successful in your business. And that, I think, is really one of the biggest things that I've learned in my life, is that I can't do anything by myself, right?
So, what are some of the challenges that justice-involved individuals face when they're coming back, and how do we help remove some of those barriers?
So one thing that I would say about working after release from incarceration is that a lot of people coming out from incarceration probably have some really good work skills as far as the functions of the job, but that there might be some significant social deficits. And part of that is that they may be coming from a place where they already had those social deficits deficits before becoming incarcerated, like maybe family systems or history of abuse or addiction, that the social situation is really different from what kind of mainstream employment would expect. Okay. And then, of course, being incarcerated can really exacerbate that because, of course, you can imagine the social situation in prison is not like the social situation in society.
No.
And so while people coming out of prison and going into work may have those structural skills like being on time, working while they're at work, wearing the correct clothes, following the correct rules, etc. They may need some extra support on the social level, and maybe really a mentor that can assist with some positive feedback for things that are being done well, and also some constructive feedback in ways that they may need to tone down their style or adjust their communication a little bit to match what other people are expecting. Could be really beneficial.
I think that's such a great idea, and I think one other piece of that mentorship that would maybe be helpful too is it's that trusted person for them to ask, what is this called? Am I supposed to do that? Somebody to go to too, so they don't have to figure out all the things that we may assume that somebody knows.
Yes. When I first got out, I had never seen a cell phone before. And then I went to work, and one of the tasks they wanted me to do was transfer phone calls to other staff. And that was not only outside of my body of knowledge, because in prison you're never allowed to touch a phone, but also it was really anxiety producing because I was like, I'm a smart person. Why can't I get this?
Yes.
I don't get this at all.
Yeah. No, I love that idea. I think it's a great suggestion for employers. And I guess one other thing I'd just like to put out there is if there are employers who are doing this now, would you contact us? Because I would love to explore that even more on a podcast, like how are they doing it and what benefits are they seeing? So I'm putting a little plug out there. Reach out to us if that's a situation that you're in right now. And again, thank you for bringing that, because I think it's a great suggestion.
If people want to reach out and get in touch with you either for assistance or for questions or anything like that, what's the best way for them to do that?
Best way really is email and just my first name last name at IowaWORKS.gov.
Very good.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Yvette. We loved having you here.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Way to go. I mean, just like an incredible story and something that serves as an inspiration to a lot of people.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks.
You.